I am the interviewer. My name is Anita Bowser. Today is December 3rd, 2024. Can you start by telling me your names?
Nancy Rice.
Bill Rice.
Nancy and Bill, thank you very much for participating. Can you tell me about your earliest memories of a library?
Well, I grew up in a little town called Swickley, Pennsylvania, and the library was in town. I lived in town. My school was in town. So I remember walking to the library on my way to and from school, and I remember a story hour where on certain days of the week after school, we all crowded into a room, and one of the librarians told us a story. Those are my earliest memories.
I grew up about 3 or 4 blocks from the present site of the library. It was an older building. It had not been remodeled. Wasn't as big as it is now. And my memories as a little boy are coming here and going around to the side of the building, and the children's area was downstairs. And I guess the main books that I can remember are Dr. Seuss books, but I'm sure there were others as well. And I enjoyed it, but not to take away from the Butler Library, the elementary schools all had libraries in them too, and I got books out of there. So between the two, I was well supplied with reading material as a young guy.
Do you remember who came with you on your early trips to the library?
I think I just went myself. I can't remember my parents going with me.
And I would say the same thing. It's possible that my mother could have been along with me, but I do not remember it. I mainly remember coming by myself. Again, it was close enough, and in the days of yore, people didn't worry about their kids being out by themselves and being away from home a few blocks.
But as a young mom, I did live within a few blocks of the library, and I brought my son to the library often, and we left here with stacks and stacks and stacks of picture books, reading books, and we would take them home and sit on the couch, and it was story time. And certain ones he just loved. There was one called Farewell to Shady Glade by Bill Peet. We read that 1,000 times and would take it back to the library and then get it out again. So I tried to instill a love of books and reading in him, and the library helped with that.
That's great. And you're both retired educators, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Library was pretty important to your students, I assume?
The library was used when I had better classes. I would have them do a library type project every year. As far as their use of the library outside of my class, I really can't speak to that. I don't know.
Right. I would concur with that. I'm not sure how much they actually used the library.
I will say that there were books in the library that I used in class, and mainly they were books with fairly large pictures in them. And there was one set of books with one volume per decade of the 20th century. And I used each one of those as I went through 20th century American history. And I would have the kids push their desks together on that day, and I called it story time. And as I leafed through the photos that were big enough for them to see, I would talk about them. And those lessons probably were more popular than most of the other things I did, because there was some humor and some laughing and so on that went along with it. I enjoyed doing it myself.
What grade level was that?
This would have been grades 9 and 11.
That sounds like fun.
It was, and I would often play music that was popular in the decade. Of course, I started with music from the 1930s, and that did not go over too well. But when I got up to the 50s, 60s, 70s, obviously that was more popular, because that would have been music they heard, say, from their parents, or maybe even their own, because I started teaching in the 60s.
So what sort of things do you do whenever you visit the library now for recreation?
Oh, for recreation. Well, just take a look at the new books. I usually look at the virtual library before I come. So when I come, I kind of have a book or two in mind. Often I will have half a dozen in mind, and I take them down from the shelves and decide which one do I want from among these books. We also look at DVDs, and Bill looks some at music. He can speak to that more. And just check out what's new.
I do about the same thing. I try and make a list of books I'm interested in by using the online library. And I always try and kind of stay a step ahead and have one on hand. So when I finish one, I can start another one right away. Or we have gotten a lot of good movies on DVD out of the library, and we still do that. And I do get music CDs out, and I happen to get 3 of them out today. And one really nice thing about the Butler Library, and this would be true for the whole county, is that it's not just the material in this particular location, it's in all the locations in Butler County. And if Butler doesn't have it, then maybe Cranberry or Slippery Rock does. And very, very nice feature that I don't remember from years ago.
And also you can look online and see how many holds there are on a certain book. So if you want to read something and you see there are 50 some holds on it, you know you're not going to get it for a while, or you can just forget it and check again in a month or two. So it's nice to have that information.
What are some of the big changes you've seen over time in
Oh,
libraries?
getting rid of the card catalog. I don't know when those disappeared. I can remember coming up when I was in college and using the card catalog. And I may be wrong, but I came up here when I was taking some classes in graduate school, and these would have been after I taught for quite a few years. It would have probably been in the 1990s, and I still think the card catalog was used then. So I'm not sure when the online stuff came into existence, but I think it's been, say, since the late 1990s. I used to hate the card catalog, and it's much easier now for me.
Yes. I don't even remember using the card catalog that much. Before we could look online, I think I just kind of cruised through the shelves and looked at favorite authors, and maybe a title or even the color of a book might catch my eye, and I pull it out and see what it is. So changes, I think just as I grew older, my interests changed, and what I was looking at or looking for kind of changed. And I don't remember where nonfiction used to be, whether it was always upstairs. There are more graphic novels available, not that I read them, but just through shelving I can see that they're becoming more popular. I see the addition of more large print and more foreign language books being available. Even large print for children is now available. I see the use of puzzles and games, and I see fewer periodicals. There used to be quite a few different magazines, and if Bill was taking his time looking for something and I was ready to go, I could sit down and grab a magazine and just spend the extra time looking through one. But I think the periodical world is going downhill, and they're having a tough time. So the amount of material you have that way is probably reflective of that.
So you guys both volunteer. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience as volunteers, what you do?
We've done numerous volunteer things over the years, and all of them are rewarding in a way. Myself, I like the library the best, And we've cut back on a few things, and a couple of the things that we used to do no longer exist. But we still come to the library every Friday, and we enjoy it besides helping out and putting things away. I often find things when I'm putting things away that I am interested in. Plus, it's good exercise. All the bending and kneeling and so on are good for the old bones to try and keep in shape.
Right. Our procedure is we get here, Bill shelves CDs, I shelve fiction. Then he helps me if he's done ahead of time. We come up and shelve some nonfiction. We go in the young adult and do some more shelving. We get the list from one of the librarians of what people have called in to request, and we find those things, and then we're about ready to go.
Clean up loose ends.
Yeah. So it's something we both look forward to. I just like books, and I like looking at them. I like being around them. I'm always curious what people are reading. It's just a fun, interesting thing to do.
Nancy probably read a lot more than I did when she was younger. I would read very occasionally when I was in my 20s and 30s and probably even into my 40s. And it seemed once we became empty nesters, I started to read a lot more. And I probably read more books than my wife does now per year. And it's just something that we enjoy. I would rather read than watch a lot of the stupid shows on TV. And we both have somewhat different tastes, but we cross over frequently and we'll read the same book. But we both keep track of the books we read. We write them down. But we both read so many books that a lot of times we forget what the old ones were about because it's been too many years and too many books ago. But that's something we look forward to, is a good read every day, if possible.
And the library saves us a huge amount of money. If we had to pay for all those books that we read, it would be pretty significant. And we also come to a classic book club here at the library that we enjoy. And it's led by Joy Walsh, who does a real good job as leader. And it forces us to read something a little bit out of the box.
Yes, I've read many books that I would have never read on my own. And to be honest, a couple of them I didn't particularly care for, but I read them. But most of them were good to really good. It's a good experience for me to have to read something that I just wouldn't have chosen on my own.
So is there anything else that you'd like to say to wrap up?
The library and the Y are the best things about Butler.
I think the library is really important, and it's really great that it's still here, and it seems to be doing well. It seems to be prospering. This is the big donation day, so we made our donation, and we hope that a lot of other people do, if not today, then in this season, because it would be a shame to see the library disappear. And we hope that the tides that the government is going in doesn't lead to any great loss of books because they've been banned. That would be a shame.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.